I've been doing this for, almost 10 years at this point, and I've had these machines and I'm starting to become like this so-called expert type of scenario. And there I am making a huge fundamental flaw with all of this because I'm putting myself in the weak angle and I don't even know it. And so after about an hour, probably, I step back. I write about this in the book. This is one of my first aha moments. And I step back and I'm like, well, okay, if that's true, I can't be the only one making this mistake, right? We're missing the weak angle and what it does, and also misinterpreting it for what the strong angle is. And if you're doing that, there's no way that you can get the benefit from the strong angle,
Mm,
if that makes sense, because you're already putting yourself in a misalignment from the beginning. And so
right.
then I started kind of testing it on everything. And I was having a conversation with somebody like you, super smart, knows their stuff, right? Maybe not as quite as into it as I am because I'm psycho obsessed with this stuff for just longer, even, and I got real frustrated. And this was right at the beginning, and I was trying to relate the physical side and the psychological side and the strategic side and the leadership stuff that I write about in the book. And I was fumbling around on it, and I thought about this later. Rightfully so, this person was getting frustrated, right? And then I was getting frustrated too. And I stopped, and I was like, "All right, listen. One thing: do you want to be in the strong angle or the weak angle? Pretty simple, isn't it?" I was like, oh, that's it. That's the question we're not asking. We're not asking that question in the present moment, even when we're doing nervous system training. And so, if you're doing nervous system training, you really want to understand the strong angle because nervous system is all about pure conditioning, right? And Mike's whole thing from the beginning, Mike Maddox, his whole system that he had was based on repetition and volume, right? Well, repetition and volume is how you acquire skills. And we don't always think about skill acquisition and how we're conditioning the body. We just think, okay, we're going to create this stimulus and response that has an indirect transfer, and then we're going to take that and put it into the expression phase of your athletics, right? But all the while, if you're conditioning the weak angle, the next thing you know, you end up with. I was listening to one of your other podcasts. You end up with a side dominance problem where you're now all of a sudden your right hip hurts all the time, and you don't understand why that's happening, and you
Hmm.
also don't understand how to fix it. Now we're getting better of understanding why that's happening, but we still keep doing everything in the weak angle and don't realize that it's not going to actually fix the problem that we're trying to fix.
Okay. Okay.
And largely, the weak angle causes you to express your side dominance more.
Okay. Let me ask you a question because I'm a very visual guy. Like most of the things I come up with, and even my own understanding of training, I can almost like see it in my head, like what's happening beneath the skin. It's kind of like how my mind works. Like here's something weird about me. I can't memorize anything from a textbook. Like when I had to learn anatomy for like some certification stuff, but when I draw it and relabel it, I have it photographically in my head. It's like a weird thing I kind of like. So the point I'm trying to make is I'm trying to see it a little bit better in my head what you're talking about. So the weak angle, and I might be butchering this, so please forgive me, but the weak angle,
Okay.
if I were to create a visual representation of this, like let's say I'm doing an isometric hold, right? And I do that isometric hold at the lowest angle of flexion where my pelvis goes below my knee. And it's so freaking hard to create any strength from that angle. That's the weak angle you're referring to, like in a nutshell.
Correct.
Correct.
So
Okay.
basically, you can look at it. Gravity always overloads the weakest angle of a range of motion.
Right. Right.
So when we add weight, weight adds gravity,
Hmm.
basically, if you want to look at it that way, right?
Right. Right.
Where a band, for example, stretches, right? And so it accommodates for basically that range of motion where the further you get away from the weak angle, that band is stretching and the resistance is getting harder as the band stretches, right?
Hmm.
But now as we come back, the band takes tension off. And again, depending on what angle you're at in your movement or whatnot, right? This is just a simplicity way of thinking about what weights do. And what most of our exercise training does is creates a generic physiological response where our muscles have to keep recruiting harder and harder and harder to overcome this weaker angle of the motion,
Hmm.
right? But again, in some sports like wrestling, you may have to go into that deep lunge type of position,
Right.
right? What it really comes down to is how do you feel? Can you switch directions?
Hmm.
Because if you can't switch directions like the 1 inch punch, that means that that weak angle is now disconnecting you, or at least it's leaking in your kinetic chain, right? And so the trick is if you're really in the strong angle, because it's not just a range of motion.
Okay.
The trick is can you switch directions without a compensation,
Okay.
right? So if you look at like static dynamic or uh, dynamic strength index and those type reactive strength index, those types of things. I'm trying to think of what Verkhoshansky and those guys call strength deficit. So if you're looking at, I'm going to do a vertical jump where I'm standing straight up and I drop my hips and I jump, right? Versus I'm going to squat down and I'm going to pause and hold an isometric position and then jump up, right? If you even have people try to do that, most of the time when they get to here, they can't just go straight up, right? Their head pops, their shoulders shift, their butt sticks out, right? They shift their weight because they're not finding the strong angle,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
right?